What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the best Galvanic Shards Mercenary build in Path of Exile 2 0.3 update. This setup has been absolutely tearing up the endgame after the latest round of buffs, and for a good reason. Crossbows no longer slow your movement speed while reloading, and the Galvanic Shard specifically had its reload speed penalty stripped away. Add in the new crossbow support gems and the passive nodes introduced into this new patch, and you end up with a build that feels smoother, faster and deadlier than even before. Now there's one small caveat: you will need to run the new reload crossbow when dodge rolling support gem with the Galvanic Shards. That's because they nerfed the reload mechanics so that each action only loads one bolt instead of the entire magazine. But honestly, this feels really natural when you get used to it. Rolling between the packs while reloading will slot perfectly into the rhythm of a combat, and it helps to sell that fantasy of a lightning fast gunslinger. My favorite part about this build that you're constantly zapping, shocking and forking bolts of energy across the screen, while stacking defensive mechanics and utility to stay alive in the thick of a battle. It's one of those builds that feels aggressive and fast-paced without sacrificing mobility. You clear maps like machine gun, and when it comes time to fight bosses, you switch the gears into a carefully timed burst combo that erases health bars in seconds. And remember, if you want to check this build, look up the best items, the skill trees and path of building, then check my link in the description. If you ever played Path of Exile 2 for long enough, then you know that the grind for currency can feel endless. And that's where today's sponsor comes in. KaidGames is a trusted platform used by over 150,000 gamers worldwide. They offer pro player support in more than top 25 games, including POE 2. No matter if you need a faster start, you want to help with the tough content, or just want currency delivered safely and quickly, then KaidGames has you covered. What I really like is how smooth the whole process is, from click to the gameplay in minutes, clear and fast chats with their team, plus if an order is not fulfilled, you get an instant refund. I've tried it myself, and honestly it just makes the game more fun. So if you wanna skip the grind and enjoy POV2 your way, then click my link in the description to check out KaidGames and use my code KAID for extra 10% off. So let's take a look at our skill gems, and at its core we have the Galvanic Shards. This skill has been transformed into an absolute monster for both clear speed and utility. When linked with the lightning attunement, the shock, fork and the lightning exposure, you get a setup that not only hits hard but chains and multiplies across the entire screen. The fork makes your shards ricochet into new targets by spreading your damage effortlessly, while lightning exposure reduces enemy resistances, so that every follow-up will hit harder than the last. The shock scaling here is insane. The whole packs will just melt. Then next up we got the shock burst rounds. Think of this as your big AoE hammer. It's a secondary skill that locks down areas and deals devastating bursts of lightning damage. The synergy between the shards for chaining damage and the shock burst for heavy focus hits, it's what it gives this build its dual identity. On top of that, we add utility gems to smooth out the playstyle. Then next, emergency reload linked with the cooldown recovery too is essential. It makes sure that you're never left helpless when you burn through your bolts. Attrition gets slotted in for damage over time pressure against very high HP bosses, giving you that extra edge when fight drags on. And then there's the Wind Dancer, which is your mobility gem of a choice. Paired with the Precision 1, Magnified Area 2 and the MAME, it offers accuracy, control and even the crowd control management, while boosting your survivability. For defenses and curses, the build runs Elemental Weakness, linked with the Focus Curse, Heightened Curse, Prolonged Duration 3 and the Life Tap. This absolutely destroys enemy resistances and makes your lightning punch above its weight. Then on top of it, we add the Sorcery Ward and the Ghost Dance, and suddenly you've got a defensive layer that feels natural without getting in the way of your aggression. Energy shield recovery, evasion bonuses and the curses will turn the bosses into a glass cannon, and this is the perfect setup for this build. Then next up we have the passive tree. And for this build it's crafted to really squeeze out every ounce of power from the Witch Hunter's archetype. We will want to start right here in this section, where you immediately pick up the nodes that boost attack speed, accuracy and dexterity. These will give you that early punch that you need to get Galvanic Shards online without feeling sluggish. From there we expand into both the Witch and the Ranger zones by cherry picking the best crit, energy shield and the elemental penetration nodes. One of the defining features of this tree is how heavily it leans into the critical strike multipliers. So when we combine this with the Galvanic Shards natural shock scaling, the crit nodes will amplify your burst into devastating nukes that delete rares and bosses instantly. But this is not all about offense, we also build it for energy shield scaling. This acts as your safety net in a place of a traditional life pool. With the right keystones and the gear, this creates a hybrid sustain system, where you can absorb hits while recharging quickly through the Ghost Dance and the Sorcery Ward. It's a defensive engine that pairs perfectly with your evasive playstyle. On the defensive side, the lightning penetration nodes are a must-have. These make sure that your bolts slice through the boss resistances and stay active all the way through the endgame. And finally, we invest into the mana sustain and the spell damage increases. You never want to feel like you're running dry mid-battle, and this will ensure that your resources keep up with your speed. Then now, let's take a look at the Ascendancy, and this Witch Hunter path will take the build to a whole new level. First up we have the Zealous Inquisition, which cranks up your shock damage and makes the Galvanic Shards feel instantly powerful. Second, we wanna grab Obsessive Rituals, which layers more multipliers on your elemental scaling and boosts consistency. Then third comes the Ceremonial Ablution, giving you the sustain and resilience needed for the endgame fights. And finally, the Pitiless Killer is the cherry on top. This Ascendancy node transforms into a crit focus monster, which is perfect for unleashing deadly bursts of lightning damage. If you combine all of these Ascendancies together, then they will supercharge both your offense and defense, while keeping your playstyle smooth and aggressive. Then now let's go over to the Atlas tree. You want mechanics that guarantee value, while also keeping fights intense. The central section will connect into notables for the essences, chunk boxes, harvest, and delirium. On the left you want to pick up harvest and essence for the reliable crafting and consistent encounters. Then on the right you expand into chunk boxes and the legion, which cranks up your monster count and the loot explosions. And then at the top take the bossing nodes. So things like the Maven Invitation, the Conqueror's Influence, and the Elder Spawns will make sure that you're always progressing through the pinnacle fights. The important part here is not to spread too thin. This Atlas tree is built around key synergies, so Essence plus the chunk boxes will guarantee value every map, while Harvest opens up your crafting that fuels your gear upgrades. Then Delirium adds density and the currency jobs, and the boss nodes keep the endgame farm loop intact. So in practice, this setup gives you a steady stream of income, consistent opportunities to upgrade your gear, and access to the most lucrative content in the game, without being overly RNG dependent. Then next up we have gear, which is where this build really comes to life. First and foremost, you want to cap the resistances at 75%. Fire, cold, and the lightning resistances all needs to be maxed. Without that, you will be dead on arrival. From there, you want to put your currency into the best crossbow that you can get. This is where the bulk of your power comes from. So ideally, you want prefixes like the flat physical plus the accuracy, or even flat lightning damage. And then for suffixes, you want to chase, plus levels to projectile skills and attack speed. A stout crossbow is your baseline, but don't hesitate to invest bigger here, as weapon quality makes or breaks the build. Then the rest of your gear slots are about stacking defenses and filling in the damage. You want the Soaring Mask helmet and the Rambler's jacket chest for the energy shield and evasion. Then the Warp gloves with the flat damage and resistances. Then the Charmed Shoes boots for mobility, and Rawhide belt for sustain. Then for rings you should prioritize the prismatic or the gold rings, with the flat lightning or the physical damage. Your amulet should be a gold amulet with critical strike scaling, and anointed with the Unbound Forces for a free multiplier. Then Jevels are another key part of this build, and you want to focus on attack damage, projectile damage, attack speed, and energy shield bonuses. The end goal here is a balanced build, so stack DPS on your crossbow, stack your survivability from the armor, and utility is sprinkled across your accessories. If you've got around 8 divines worth of gear invested, then the setup really feels buttery smooth. And now finally, let's see how to actually play this build. For clearing, the Galvanic Shards is your bread and butter. So here's the trick, you should tap Fire it rather than just holding down the key. This will cancel out the usual movement penalty while still giving you near 100% attack speed. So you're basically striding through the maps at a full speed, while unleashing a constant storm of lightning shards. And then for single target fights, you want to use the Shock Burst, but you must make sure that the target is the Shock Fire first. Apply Voltaic Mark and Conductivity on the bosses or tanky rares, and then just spam your Shock Burst for devastating bursts, and then just spam Shock Burst and destroy enemies. With the Ascendancy bonuses and the critical multipliers, you will be deleting endgame bosses in seconds, and that's really the loop. Shards for clearing, Shock Burst for the bosses, and curses for even more buffs. However, if you ever feel stuck on damage, then the solution is almost always a better weapon. So look for plus 500 DPS with physical or the lightning only, and not cold or fire. Rings and gloves with the flat lightning or the physical damage are also easy upgrade. and don't forget to catalyze them for the max value. Then for defenses, focus on the armor quality and energy shield. Upgrade your helmet and the chest first, then quality of your gear for 20% boost. As long as you're sitting around 3000 combined life and energy shield, then you're good to go. The beauty of the setup is how brainless it can feel once you get the rhythm down. Just use the galvanic shards and everything around you dies. Just dodge roll to reload while moving. Then drop the shock bursts on the bosses and keep your curses up. Overall, this mercenary build is simple, fast, and incredibly satisfying to play.